Chapter 6. Alistair, POV. I sat beside my son as he laughed and talked to Ella. I have appointed Eleanor, my most trusted maid, to take the job of being Noah's protector, babysitter. I knew Ella is perfect, and they would easily like her character.
Noah, why don't you say hi to the man sitting next to you?
Ella said to him. My heart beat fast, and excitement filled my body as I waited patiently for my son to talk to me.
Hello, mister.
His voice echoed on my ear as I looked down at him. A wide smile made way to my face as I looked down at the small boy. He has blue eyes, like mine, only a bit more darker, and beautiful light brown hair just like his mother's. He is born to be a handsome prince, like his father. Hello there, I said as he smiled widely at me.
I'm Noah. My mummy is going to come walking from there.
He said, pointing at the opening end of the aisle. Oh, really now? I asked as he laughed and clapped hands.
When she comes out and walks up the stage, we need to clap and cheer her more and more.
He said excitedly as I laughed. Of course, we will give her the biggest cheer ever, I said, looking at a proud, smiling Ella.
Yes,
he said. I looked down at his small hand, which now rests on the side of the chair. I gulped nervously as I moved my hand to touch his. I closed my eyes and put my hand on his, and his cheer suddenly stopped. I started to panic and regret doing it, but a small hand fell on top of my big ones, and I opened my eyes to see him smiling brightly at me.
You are a good man, mister. Not like that mean guy in my dream. I like you,
he said as I huffed a laugh. I tensed as he climbed into my lap and smiled at me. I felt tears fill my eyes as I hugged him, resting my chin on his head.
Are you all right, mister?
He asked as he pulled me away. He wiped my fallen tears with a frown.
Why are you crying?
He asked, wiping my tears. Nothing, Noah. It's nothing, I said, kissing him on the cheek as he giggled.
It tickles.
He laughed, rubbing my stubble, making me laugh as well.
Welcome to Autumn Fall Fashion Show 2020. This year we have fascinating new looks just perfect for your party and function. Organized and managed by Mrs. Juliana Johnson and her team of expert fashionistas called the Captivators. The show has been running #1 for the past 5 years. Now, without further waiting, let it begin.
The anchorwoman said as the whole crowd cheered. Noah struggled in my lap, and I looked down. I loosened my grip as he slid down and got back to his seat.
It started! It started!
He jumped excitedly. I too sat there excited, just waiting to see my queen walk through those curtains. The lights dim, and beautiful women, all dressed differently, and some weirdly, came out with one by one posing and showing their talent. I sat there patiently waiting for her to come out, and with a quick glance at my son, I could see he was eagerly waiting as well.
Mommy!
He suddenly shouted, clapping his hands. My eyes widened as the love of my life walked out the curtain with confidence. She looked beautiful in the peach gown. Her straight hair was now in beautiful curls. She reached the end of the aisle and posed with a wink and looked at the seat beside me. I saw a small smile made her way to her face as she saw our son. Our son. I will never get old of that word. Her eyes moved to me, and I saw it widen, but only for a split second before it went back to the previous confident one. I rose from my seat as she started walking back. I smiled and waved at Noah before walking to the side. A guard stood next to the no-entry door. I walked up to him and activated my powers. My eyes shined blue, and so did his, and he moved away, opening his door. I tapped his shoulder as a thank you gesture, and he nodded before closing the door. I clapped my hands to bring him out of the hypnotism effect and started making my way through the empty corridor. There were many doors with different names written on it.
Who are you?
A feminine voice rose as I stopped midway. I turned to find a blonde woman in a blue tight dress looking at me judgmentally.
I'm sorry, sir, but this is a no-entry place.
She said as she walked up to me. My apologies, young lady, I said as I bowed. She scrunched her eyebrows in confusion and stared at me as I smiled.
Are you a model?
She asked, looking at me from head to toe. No, madam, I am not, I said, laughing as she hummed.
A very rich businessman, perhaps?
She said as I nodded a no. Wrong again, madam. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alistair Regmore. I am Noah's father, or in other words, Ariana's husband, I say as her eyes widen.
What? OMG. You have finally come. I was starting to think that she was making up the whole husband in foreign speech.
She said as she grabbed hold of my hand.
You're looking for her, right?
She asked excitedly. Yes, I want to see her. I want to praise how beautiful she was in the stage, I said as she squealed.
OMG. That is so romantic. Unlike my boring-ass husband who doesn't know a thing about romance.
She grumbled.
Oh, sorry, I got off topic. If you go straight, you will see steps to the top floor. The third room to the left is hers. She will not be there now, but I will send her up. Just make sure to send her down for the party in an hour.
She said as I nodded. Thank you so much, madam, I said as she blushed.
Oh, no. Please, call me Juliana.
She said as I nodded. Yes, thank you, Juliana, I said, kissing the top of her hand before running to the steps.
Chapter 7. Previously, aka Chapter 5. I opened the door to my changing room and my heels slipped from my hands as I stared at the person in front of me. Standing there, all handsome and heartbreaking, was the same guy. The guy that was there when I ramp walked down the aisle. The guy that saved me from that place. The guy that claimed to be my baby's father. Ariana POV. He was staring right at me. His eyes were filled with longing, which confuses me. Why is he looking at me like that? Is he really the guy who left me?
My queen.
He whispered, and surprisingly my heart started to beat fast. Who are you? I asked, trying to sound confident, but I was miserably failing.
My queen.
He repeated again, and within a flash second, I was embraced in a hug. My body completely froze. The logical part of me was screaming at me to kick the stranger in his balls, but my body was not listening.
I missed you so much.
He whispered close to my ear, and unknown warmth filled my heart. I really don't know how long I stood there, but once I felt my mind clearing, I pushed him hard. He probably, on shock, was thrown backward. I quickly turned and ran to the door, but before I could reach it, a blue light passed by me and closed the door. I watched in horror as the light moved upwards and locked it. I slowly turned back in fear as I looked at the man who was on the ground. His hand was raised, and it was clear that he was controlling the light. But that was not the reason a shiver went down my spine. He was staring at me with glowing eyes. They were glowing bright light blue. The black rings around his iris were even more defined. He was giving a very chilly aura.
Please, let me speak, Ariana.
He said, but his voice was not the same as before. It was more deep and rough. I stared at him in horror as he stood and walked slowly to me. He was like a predator, slowly advancing towards his prey.
I pray you, my queen, do not think of me as a threat.
He said, which was impossible. How the hell do I not count this as a threat and danger to my life? He is freaking doing magic. I quickly shut my eyes as he raised his hand, but it never touched me. I opened one eye to take a peek at what happened. What is this expression? He looked hurt and devastated. His eyes were filled with tears threatening to fall. Why does my heart ache at this sight? Suddenly, was taken up against the wall. His lips met mine, and my eyes widened in shock. His tongue entered my mouth and explored every inch. I was beating on his chest just so he let go, but his hand interlocked it to the wall. What the hell? Let go, I can't breathe. He moved away from me and kissed both my cheek and then my forehead.
I beg you to listen to what I want to tell.
He said as I was panting. I glared at him, but what he did took me by surprise. He fell on his knees and took my hand. He kissed the back of it and looked up at me.
Please, just one chance.
He said as I sigh, "Okay, I will talk with you," I said as he gave me a wide smile. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I swear he looked like Noah after he successfully persuaded me in buying something he wants. Is he really my son's father?
Ariana,
I snapped out of my thinking as he waved his hand in front of me. "I'm sorry, I was just thinking," I said as he nodded confusedly.
I said, can we talk over lunch tomorrow?
He said as I nodded.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I swear, you won't regret it.
He said as he once again stepped more closely to me. His lips were closing in, but I didn't feel like pushing him. Somehow, seeing him happy made me happy. "Mrs. Davis, the party has begun and Mrs. Juliana is searching for you and your husband." A voice came from the other side of the door along with knocking. "Shit. I will be right down," I said, pushing him away. "Mrs. Davis? But I'm not married." "Will you get out?" I asked as he raised his eyebrow.
May I ask why?
He asked back. "I need to change," I said, starting to feel irritated. "Just get out already. I need to get ready before Mrs. Juliana personally comes and drags me out."
You can change in front of me, love. It's not like I haven't seen you naked. I am the father of your child, and I had
He said, but I quickly covered his mouth. "Stop. Don't. Just don't," I said as he stared at me. I was blushing very hard, and the amount of heat I'm feeling makes me feel like I was running a fever. "Look, I'm sorry, but I really don't remember anything about Noah's father. But one thing I can tell you. He misses him. He wants a father. His real father. So if you are just playing games with me, messing around and saying he is your son, then please don't. He is the only one I have in my life, and I won't hesitate to cut your fucking baby maker if he is hurt by you," I said as I saw his eyes widen with fear.
I am his father.
He said before sighing.
I will prove it to you, by all means, Arya. But now, you need to go attend the function.
He said as I raised my eyebrow. "Once again, I need to change, so get out," I said as he smirked.
I think that blue gown suits you very well.
He said as I looked down at my attire and grasped. The peach designer dress was now replaced by a beautiful blue gown. I looked at the mirror and admired the dress. "Did you just do Cinderella shit on me?" I asked as he laughed.
I do not know what Cinderella shit is, but I can say you look like the queen you are.
He said, and somehow his praising made me so happy.
And we match. Couple goals, as you used to say at that time.
He said with a grin. He was right. We were matching. He was wearing a blue designer suit the same color as mine.
Shall we go?
He asked as he extended his hand on me. "Yeah, we are not at that stage," I said before I turned and walked to the door.